Hey, welcome to episode 3 of TechXchange, proudly brought to you by HCX, where we bring in leading experts to share their knowledge and insights into science and technology.
I'm Arka.
And I'm Christopher. So Arka, VTLs are in, staycay is the way to go.
Yeah.
So who better than to bring in a person from the hotel industry, right?
Yeah, someone who's really making changes there, making it so much easier for us to get in and get out.
Yeah, exactly, man. So let's welcome Maxim.
Hi.
Hey.
Maxim here is the founder and CEO of GTRIIP. They are a company that enable documentless check-in into hotels. So hi, Maxim. Maybe you can start by telling us in your own words a bit about yourself firstly. You have had quite an interesting sort of life trajectory, and about GTRIIP and how you're part of the whole digital transformation journey.
Sure. My name is Maxim, so I'm founder and CEO of GTRIIP. Before starting GTRIIP, I was in a startup. We were doing data warehouse and business intelligence, and even before that, I was born in Myanmar. Then after that, I moved to Singapore after my O-levels. I went to Singapore Poly, study IT. Straight out of Poly, I joined this company doing that business in data warehouse and business intelligence. I was in the founding team that was doing that business. We grew it to around 100 over employees. And at that point, we were acquired by one of the largest telcos in Japan. And post-acquisition, I was considering to potentially join some of the large MNCs or also start my own business. That's when I got involved in some of the internet businesses that I started off as an early angel investor and also became an operator. Long story short, that business got majority stakes acquired by a venture capital from Malaysia. Then after that, we went for a group IPO on Australia Stock Exchange, giving us a kind of like a liquidity event, which freed me up to again start something new. That was year 2014. Then we started what we now call it GTRIIP. A business to do global trips easily. That's what it stood for.
I mean, that's quite a wide-ranging journey, right? Yeah. And sounds like you do a lot of work. But great.
So there's so much that you're doing. So what do you do, Maxim? What do you do in your free time, with all this that is in your plate?
So 2010, 11, I picked up cycling. So of course, at first very casually, but a lot of my friends became what we call COVID cyclists during the last 2 years. All started buying a bicycle, and they asked me, "Hey, bring a road bike out. Let's go for a ride." So I started doing road cycling a lot more frequently. Nowadays, I ride every weekend, sometimes even during the weekday. Sometimes we ride with our colleagues as a group ride. So yeah, road cycling has become a very passionate hobby for me.
How much do you spend on your bike?
You can tell my wife about it, kind of prices, but it can be a very deep hobby. You can go deeper, but ultimately, I think it is ultimately you are the engine. So it is all about your fitness level, your stamina, your strength, and then you really want to become better over each ride. So it is a good way to stay fit without looking at it as a form of exercise. It is a hobby that you do that byproduct gives you some exercise. I hate jogging, so this gets me out of the house and start exercising.
Do you think it helps you work better?
So certainly. So the funny thing about exercise is that I during my college I used to be a gamer, so I hate waking up early in the morning. I definitely don't want to exercise, but physical exercise is one of those things. The more energy you consume and you burn, the more you get back when you recover. So for example, I will sometimes go for an early morning ride, like 5, 6 a.m. Then after that, when I go to work, I'm actually very alert, almost like hyperactive. But of course, you crash at night when you sleep. But it does give me a lot better concentration and a workday productivity after a morning ride. It is counterintuitive, but yeah, it works.
It's quite a common thing that a lot of people do. They go out to run early in the morning.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's never worked for me. I hate running.
If you tell me to do that with jogging, I'd probably say no. But like I said, I'm not obsessed about this hobby. Like, hey, I have a new pedal. I want to try it. So to me, I don't feel it as a chore, or I'm not like trying to exercise to lose weight or something like that. It is just me being obsessed with something, which happens to be a physical exercise. That's the difference.
Okay.
But I think that's very necessary for a person who's an entrepreneur, right? To be so
Yeah.
obsessed with something that you really want to do it, and it kind of changes your behavior.
And in a way, if you ask every founder, they will say that it can be very stressful. So you do need to find ways to isolate things and compartmentalize. When you are doing something else away from work, you do want to be able to fully focus on that and not your day-to-day work stress.
All right. So that was the sort of the more fun parts that you do. We know that you also work on other activities, and I think that might be relevant to this next question. So the contactless economy, right? Essentially, making things easy and seamless is quite an in thing now, and it's only going to grow, right? In the view of that sort of this revolution that's going on, this contactless revolution, GTRIIP does play a part, right? It makes things easier and more, like without human intervention. But in something like checking in, to a hotel, which is a new experience for many families, right? They're going overseas. It's a new thing. Do you feel like this experience that GTRIIP creates might remove some of the more human elements of this, say, check-in process, such as face-to-face communication or empathy that you have when you start this exciting trip?
Certainly. In fact, we started this business even before COVID. So the first question we usually have from the hotel GMs is that, look, we are in hospitality. It's an emotional business. It's to provide warm experiences for guests. If you're removing away those touch points, will it become a bad experience for the guests? This is a misconception. The short answer is no. Automation doesn't have to take away the hospitality experience. I'll give you an example. If you are going to a hotel for a staycation this year, and the main fun experience is about getting to the room, enjoying the facilities, maybe going shopping, the swimming pool, spa. So we want guests to get to that warm hospitality experience as soon as possible with minimal paperwork, minimal administrative work. You can't be stuck in the lobby, checking in with other staycation guests for 1-2 hours before you can get to your room, which does happen because during the staycation periods, every staycation guest want to maximize their time. So they all try to check in as early as possible. And they all get stuck in the lobby, right? And this could be a painful experience for a guest, which actually distracts from the original purpose of wanting to have a fun experience. So we look at automation in a way that it has to be something that is good for both the hotel guests and also to the hotel front office team. Imagine you're running double the workload with half the capacity, and there's so many things to do. If you have some of this paperwork automated, imagine in the past you have to photocopy the passport or local IDs and then have a guest registration card to fill up. And worst of all, you have to type it into the property management system. If all that manual labor is automated, and I could instead spend my time having a small talk with the guest, and hey, cute kid, how is the boy? Where are you guys headed? So you are actually creating a better hospitality experience because the mundane paperwork has been automated away. So that's how we've approached things even before COVID. Just that during COVID, anything contactless has become really high in demand because not just productivity, for safety and sanitization reasons. So the product has gotten a lot of demand in the industry, but we stayed true to our ethos of hospitality and contactless, documentless experiences have to be for the good of the hotel and the guest.
So on that note, there will still be people who might be displaced, right? Has that thought bothered you or occurred to you?
Yeah, in fact, it did. We at first look at it as a job redesign. It is not really a displace. So if you're automating some of the mundane tasks, you move up the value chain and start doing higher value tasks. But there could be industry-wide trends that might not even have anything to do with us. So for example, in the tech industry, a lot of people will notice the trend of infrastructure going from on-premise to the cloud. That will immediately displace a lot of people who used to be server administrators, network engineers, unless you work for somebody like Amazon who is doing AWS. We see the trend taking place with or without us, but one thing that triggered for me was we wanted to find a way, or rather I wanted to find a way to at least do my part in either minimizing the impact or find a way to help those people who are affected. So I volunteer for Tech Talent Assembly. It's an NTUC affiliated organization. The objective is to really drive lifelong learning, education, and employability. Because earlier we're talking about people who are getting displaced. It can be tech, non-tech people, but usually technology being the driving force behind this displacement. So what do you do when they get laid off? Or what do you do when their jobs are at risk? Can these people be retrained, cross-trained, or job redesigned to do something? So a very good example will be, as a Tech Talent Assembly, we engage with folks who are mid-career. They could be considering for a career switch or a career upgrade, so that if the technology disrupts their day-to-day workload, they could be better prepared. So they could be going for courses, they could be going for a career coaching with some mentors to better prepare them for the impact before it takes place. Sometimes it's before it takes place, sometimes after they get retrenched. We try to find ways to career map them based on their skill sets, former experiences, certain upgrades, and then try to get a job placement. So that's what I do outside of my day job, to try to get involved in a community that helps with the employability and learning regardless of the tech trends that are shifting the market demands.
Okay, oh, that's quite cool. I just wanted to touch a little bit about GTRIIP again, because I think it's interesting how you have shifted from, you mentioned the documents that you have to receive, the things that they have to type into. So what have they shifted into? What does this product do, and how does it actually work?
Sure. To explain in a more simplified way, all this data entry took place because the details about your identity got to go into some system. If you're going to a hotel, something like a property management system need to capture all those details. So what we do is we use your smartphone as a transmitting device of all these details to the system. Of course, underlying technology could be like your smartphone transmitting these details like your first name, last name, NRIC number to the cloud, which sends the data back to a server on-premise, which is connected to their systems locally. So this could be cloud to on-premise data transmission. There's also components of automating the data entry. So do you have to type in your own NRIC and your first name, last name? It could be possible, but we want to try to make it as frictionless as possible. So today the process is take a photo of your photo ID. We will automatically capture the details on the photo ID by using computer vision. It is a combination of facial recognition and OCR. So we identify whether it's real or fake, what are the colors on it, whether it looks real, what are the text values on it, so that we can send it to the systems. And most importantly, we will also ask you to take a selfie. So it's kind of like a verifying that you are the true owner of that photo ID. And that takes place on your smartphone. It's kind of, we explain to the hotel owners and GMs like this: consider your front office, but it's shrinking to your smartphone device. It's a portable front office with you.
Bring it all down to the phone.
And
the impact is that, of course, from a hotel point of view, I'm shrinking my front office to your smartphone device. But as a staycation guest or even international traveler, the experience is that you're going straight to room. From Changi Airport, you're taking a Grab straight to a room. You could bypass the front office and that long queue altogether. It is almost like teleporting to the room. Of course, we can't physically get into the room, but that's the kind of experience we're trying to emulate without any friction.
The authentication using your phone has become especially in the pandemic, has become quite a popular way of onboarding clients on many applications, actually.
Even for opening a bank account nowadays.
Correct. And so I think it's really where we seem to be headed. And I remember there were quite a few security concerns in the past, like what if someone is using a fake ID? You can't hold the ID, you can't really tell. But now it's so much easier to verify all that information, right? Especially with the selfie. I think that's quite an important step of the process.
I think if you had to go deeper into the technology behind it, the processing power on both your mobile devices and the cloud is becoming higher exponentially, the cameras on your smartphones are becoming
better.
very, very good. So it's becoming easier and easier to do a lot of that computer vision processing either on the cloud or on your device. And again, you have now 4G, 5G connection, so the connections are also very good to do a cloud-based processing. So this upgrades in technology allows what used to be impossible to even do real-time processing of the photo ID to see whether what's the likelihood of that being fake or real.
When the user takes the picture of their ID, is it GTRIIP that saves that information, or is it the hotel that is sort of the custodian?
We try to be a platform provider like how companies like AWS Cloud position themselves. So we are an enabler of that. We have to process this information. It is encrypted, but we are not in the business of selling this information to anybody because actually hotels have to pay us to use this service. So ultimately, the data ownership is something that the hotel or the property has to agree with the guest. So based on PDPA, if you're allowed to keep the email address of the guest, then that's all you're allowed to keep. Maybe the photo ID information is off limits, then they will get purged after they check in.
So when they reach the hotel, they actually just show the stuff that they have already done, or they,
that used to be the case. That used to be the case, but today we have added features like digital keys. So in the past, yes, I show that, hey, here's my check-in, I'm done, and I pick up a physical key to go. But the good thing is nowadays we partner with major door manufacturers in the industry who has compatible smart locks that could be opened using a smartphone. This actually allows us to push the envelope in terms of experience. You no longer have to go to the front office. When you're done with that digital check-in, your smartphone also becomes your room key. So recently we've been doing for even hotels who are in the independent segments or 3-star budget segment, and this really simplifies the process for them. They can check in remotely. When they arrive at the property, they can go straight to their room because their phone is now also the key.
That's what you call a seamless experience, man.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's like you're going back to an apartment or something. You know, it's really
like home.
It's like your own home.
Exactly.
You know?
Do you see this being applied to more security conscious environments such as, say, airports?
I think if you think long term, potentially yes, but where we see a lot of adoption taking place is high traffic, shared accommodation kind of location. So currently we're serving hotels, university campus accommodations, co-living spaces, service apartments. So anytime a human enters a place, there tend to be friction. And that's a good spot for us. Whether the higher security places will eventually adopt it is always a balance between user experience versus security.
Yeah. I think for us, like, security is always like the primary concern, right? Yeah. So it's always interesting to see new applications of ways to make that security still secure, like, still have secure ways to, protect the installation or an area, but also make it more easy to enter, right? Don't have to go
customer experience.
Look for a person with a key specifically and wait for that person to come, then take the key.
If anything, in fact, things has gotten a lot more secure because of digitalization. So in the past, before COVID, we've seen markets where certain people will pre-book the entire floors during the holiday seasons. They will have a stack of access cards for those hotel rooms. So in the record, the hotel thinks there's this one guy who is staying this whole floor, but the guy is actually reselling the rooms in the black market with access cards. He just sits in the lobby and say, I'm selling rooms. Of course, it is illegal because the record doesn't show who the actual tenant in the place. And all this used to be very widespread in the past. Because today the digital solutions are in play, you can't do that anymore. You actually have to be the actual guest to check in before the key is sent to you, and very unlikely for you to be selling your iPhone with a key preloaded inside because it's not just a card anymore. In fact, sometimes in the pursuit of that better user experience, things gotten more secure.
Maybe I have one last question about this experience part. So when I leave the room, in a hotel, I leave a key inside to let the aircon run.
Yeah.
Yeah, can I not do that anymore?
It has gotten a lot more high tech nowadays, because a lot of the hotels are upgrading their smart locks to be smartphone compatible. They know that the physical card slot-ins are becoming less relevant. So nowadays, the newer rooms that has a smart keys also have the smart sensors and motion sensors inside. So it knows whether the room is occupied or not without you specifically sliding a card in, because you can cheat that. Even when you go out, you can just leave something in, like your name card.
Exactly.
So nowadays they've gotten a lot smarter, which actually has been helping a lot of hotels save more energy on electricity bills, because you can no longer cheat. So when you leave the rooms can lower the temperature, dim the lights, and reduce the electricity usage and carbon footprint.
Correct.
Wow, good customer experience, save electricity.
I mean, we can't take credit for that, but it's just a general trend where the whole industry is moving towards sustainability.
Oh, that's
I
very
think that's
good.
always a good thing, especially for something like hotels, where it has traditionally had a lot of water usage, electricity usage.
Hey, Maxim, there's something really bothering me. As you talked about this seamless check-in and all, I was just thinking, how do I actually get a free upgrade if I want to go to the hotel front desk and ask for it? There's no more front desk.
Yeah, you're probably the kind of guest that hotel front office either love or hate. Because if you're asking for free, probably they can't give you that. But there's usually a process for the hotel front office to sell you an upgrade. So you can just pay for a price difference and you can upgrade. Sometimes can even get a good discount. So when we digitize that experience, we also have to find a way to provide that. So it's one of the new features that we've added in the new version of the product. It's kind of like airline. When you check in on your online check-in for your airline, they allow you to upgrade to a better seating, extra leg room for a fee. So hotels are now also starting to do that. So we allow our customers to pay a price difference online during the point of check-in to upgrade to a better room. And this is good for the hotel as well. So you're not just getting the room upgrade at a good discount. The hotels, especially during COVID, are very conscious about their revenue and profits. So this allows the hotel owners to maximize their revenue as well.
How was, we've heard a lot about your company and, you're doing well now. Back in the heydays, how was it like for your very first client? Maybe you could share that.
I wouldn't call it a heyday. So it's now we have around 30,000 rooms of paying customers. It seems like a long time ago when we were trying to just convince the first hotel or first room to be a paying customer. I still remember it vividly. So me and my team actually we didn't really have a team. It's just we have our first employee. So the two of us were trying to okay, we need to get some serious sales. So we're trying to get the sales pitches done. We walked into a hotel that we know was having a lot of long check-in queues, pile up guests, and they were all pissed. And front office was trying to cope with this annoyed, pissed off guests to get them into the room as soon as possible. So we talked to the front office. We waited out during lunch break when all the check-ins are done. We talked to her and say, hey, it looks like you are struggling, maybe understaffed. There are ways we could help to make this check-in smoother. We can automate some of this process. Maybe the automate what didn't probably sound very good to her. Sounds like I'm trying to replace a job. But so we told her, can we talk to your GM so that we can have a chat? Then she asked me, do you have an appointment with the GM? If not, no, we don't entertain walk-in salespeople. Get out. So we literally got kicked out of the lobby.
Oh my.
But the funny thing is that hotel later became our customer. So there's a happy ending to that.
Okay, that's good, man. Yeah.
All that I think teaches you kind of like helps you refine your approach, right? Every successive try. I think
it's just a lot of rejection that you got to overcome, even if you have the right product market fit.
So in terms of like the hotel experience, right? At least I have seen several, horror stories about, like the hotel, like check-in being one of them. Like you go and then there's a massive queue. Maybe there's a convention or something going on, and also the rooms might not be as clean as you want them to be and all that. So having, being a part of this, seamless experience building, right? Making it easy for us to just go all the way directly to the room and start our holiday. What are maybe some pieces of advice or insights that you might have as being an insider here?
Sure.
That makes it less stressful for us?
It's probably seasonal as well. So I can tell you, if you're going for a staycation this month or December next during the peak periods, be more kind to the front office team that you're working with, because now is a peak. And during COVID, a lot of hotels downsized their workforces because of low occupancy rate. So a lot of the properties today in the region, not just Singapore, are running on half the capacity of what they used to have. So they have less people, but they're still fully booked. So they're trying to deal with double the workload. So although you are probably very unhappy having to wait and getting stuck, they are feeling that pressure 10 times worse, because they're doing this day in, day out. There's an endless strain. So you can be nicer to them, and at the same time, figure out. In fact, a lot of hotels nowadays, because of this trend, and not just us, the whole industry is moving towards this online contactless check-in. Instead of just being surprised at the front office when you arrive at last minute, try to find out if there's a way for you to do all these pre-arrivals beforehand. It can be just an email to us. Sometimes the booking confirmation email will tell you that, hey, you can download our hotel branded app, or there's an online web check-in link that you can click to do it. So if it's one of our customers, in the booking confirmation email, there's a link that you can click and complete your check-in before you arrive. So try to do it early. One hack is try to avoid the peak check-in time. I know you want to maximize your staycation time, but you'll be just stuck there. So try to go later if you can. So that the main block, very early you cannot, because the previous rooms haven't been checked out yet. So maybe you want to do your lunch, everything, shopping first, and then you check in a bit later, so you avoid the peak crowd.
I think it's as people in technology, one thing we may tend to just overlook now and then is that there's always a human on the other side, right? A person just like us.
No, there's a physical room on the other side. They have to clean and sanitize it before you can stay. And all staycation guests, they will maximize their time. They will wait until the last minute before they check out. So this gives very little room for the housekeeping to clean the rooms.
It can.
And remember, now housekeeping is running on half the capacity.
I think we all hope that everything comes back to normal, right? Like everything. Everyone's less stressed and less workload, but I mean, this initial transition period, I think, will definitely be more challenging, especially.
So, as as you founded this company, you are like a visionary. What do you think, or what do you foresee how travel will be like, or even how hotel stay will be like? Will there be another leap and bound forward in the experience? Anything you think?
I wouldn't call myself a visionary. I think is at the point of starting the business, we were looking at problems and thinking we want to find ways to solve it. We look around and see whether there were solutions for it. If not, then this has to exist. And if no one's building it, we build it, right? So that was more like it. It's not like, oh, we foretold the future. It's going to be. It's nothing like that. It's just a product that wanted to solve a real problem. Looking forward, we think that things got to become more and more seamless. At one point, probably international travel has to be kind of like what you see in the science fiction, where you just walk through gates and doors, and your identity needs to be quite seamlessly identified, be it based on your voice, biometrics, or a chip in your body. We don't know what the actual technology is going to be, but it has got to become a lot more frictionless.
I think there's a emerging concept, especially with things like blockchain and all that come up, which is the pseudonymous identity, the identity that you have online, not necessarily being the identity that you are in real life, but an identity that you have online makes it a lot easier for many people to gain access to many applications which often were first tied to a physical identity, such as banking, for example. Now with a pseudonymous identity, you can access those. Do you think, in sense of things like accessing different services and all, there's a large part of the global population who cannot still access it in the way that we are discussing here? Do you think that that's going to change in a meaningful way?
I think it's just a very loaded question. I don't have a crystal ball to predict the future, but one thing certainly is happening is the line between the metaverse kind of identity and your physical identity is starting to blur. In fact, if you have a Twitter account with a verified blue tick, that's online, but it could impact the actions and reactions in the real world. You could tweet something bad and bad things could happen to your followers or to you. So I think the lines are blurring. So in fact, I think at one point there will be no such thing called just online, digital, or physical identity. There'll be just one thing, identity, and you are what you are online or even offline.
I think it's an interesting part of the conversation that we're at, which is on like this future and like,
in fact, in some markets, even to play online games, there are certain hourly restrictions. So you need to provide the actual physical identity verification before you're allowed to log in and play your MMORPG within a certain time frame. In certain markets, not all, but that's how the lines are getting blurred between online and offline worlds.
In technology, I think that is always a battle between people who want to preserve sort of that mysterious of like I'm like just an identity that's online and one that's offline. But the minute you connect the two, it becomes really hard to distinguish. Like the lines, as you say, start blurring. Speaking of technology, I think other than you're of course in the technology of making seamless experiences, but also like access, right, making it easier to check into places. Other than that, are there other technologies that you see you're excited about today?
I think one of the trends that is a little hard to ignore will be probably a blockchain. I was a very early believer in even cryptocurrencies. Just that the whole concept of being able to have a decentralized, a very robust system appeals to me. There is no single point of failure. Of course, there is. There could be compliance issues, but at least you have a highly robust distributed currency, distributed system. And because when I talk about blockchain, it's not specific to cryptocurrency. It could be a blockchain-based identity as well. Earlier, you were saying about places where people have difficulty getting an ID. It's true. There are countries in the world that state has difficulty tracking where their citizens are, or even issue a physical, unlike Singapore, there are places where they have difficulty issuing a physical ID to every single child that's born. Maybe they're in the middle of a forest that no hospital has or birth certificate registration easy access to. For the global population to be properly identified and provide access to basic facilities like banking, healthcare, education, a passport to go overseas, this becomes an interesting place to watch. There were international initiatives to try to put the human identity of blockchain and things like that. So that's another area that I'm quite passionate about.
Okay, that's quite interesting. I think a lot of people see that as a emerging problem, right? It's a problem that needs to be solved. Southeast Asia especially has made great strides in that area of bringing unbanked people or people without access to many resources.
When we talk about banking, because we day-to-day use Singapore dollars as a currency, it's a very stable currency, so you don't have to worry too much about major inflation risk, hyperinflation kind of risk. But there are markets and places that faces these kind of problems, and there could be a real use case for a currency that's easy to wire, that's easy to spend, and to a certain extent be a good store of value. That could even be better than the day-to-day fiat for certain places. So I think this is an interesting place to look at, even though it might not be very relevant for us in Singapore.
Okay, that's true. Cool. Turkey and Venezuela come to mind when you think about that. And a lot of people are trying to shift to the US dollar.
They're not trying to form more. They have a real need to preserve their wealth. Or not even a wealth, it's life savings, right? Like you don't want your money to become hyperinflated overnight.
That's right. I think like that's one of the big problems that technology is. If you think about like even 10, 15 years ago, you wouldn't think that would be something that technology was able to solve, but we can't say that it is solving it yet, but it's definitely a step in the right direction.
All right, it's now to our bowl segment. So Maxim, here we have a bowl of personas. So what you have to do is just pick up a persona and we'll ask you a question. You just have to explain the question as if you're explaining it to this person.
Okay.
So very straightforward. So Maxim, when you pick the persona, just read it and then you can show it to the camera so that our audience knows who you have picked. So on to our first.
Lucky draw time.
Yeah.
All right, let's see what I get.
An AI
way.
assistant. All right.
Is it even a real persona?
It is, but it's surprising because the first question is, or essentially what you have to explain to the AI assistant is, what is AI?
Okay, not in code, but in human language.
Yes, in human language.
Sure. So you want me to explain what AI is to an AI assistant? So like, hey,
Yes.
dear Siri, you're not
Yeah,
you're not real.
Yes.
Do you know what you are?
Yeah, I think there are many different kinds of artificial intelligence. Most of the AI are narrowly designed for a specific task. So, for example, Siri is very narrowly designed to be voice AI. You try to show a photo to Siri. Hey Siri, what is this photo? Siri doesn't have capabilities to do computer vision. Siri is a voice activated AI that is supposed to respond to certain voice queries with certain answers. So an AI will be, well, I sound like I'm explaining this to a programmer rather than an AI assistant. But yeah, it is a pre-trained set of data sets and conclusions. And based on those historical trainings, you can attempt to answer the future questions or solve the future problems in a similar way. So again, if you're a computer vision AI assistant, so in the past, you have been shown, dear AI, you have been shown 500 photos of what a Singapore driving license looks like. So now I'm going to show you a photo, and based on the similarity to the past photos you've seen, you tell me whether you think this is a Singapore driving license or not. So you are trying to infer based on past information to draw future conclusion for the new data sets.
Cool. That's a good answer, right?
Yeah. Maybe I could ask you about GTRIIP is AI enabled as well. What, in maybe like very brief words, what is the main AI capabilities that you offer?
I will try to explain this like how I explain this to my mom. It's computer vision. So we train the neural networks with different combinations and different types of photo IDs based on historical data and historical check-ins. So if you're a human front office, after seeing international passport for 200 times, you kind of know what it looks like. And someone shows you the piece of document that is not really a passport, you will know straight away and say, bro, this is not a passport. Come on. I know what a passport looks like because he has been trained. So we're trying to do the exact same thing to the computer vision by pre-training it with the earlier photos of international passports and local IDs, so that when they see a new document through your smartphone, it can identify what type of ID it is. So today, the AI is smart enough to not ask you what ID it is. You show a local ID, it knows it's a local ID. You show an international passport, it knows it's an international passport. Then after that, it goes into different models. So when we detect that it's a local ID, we activate the correct local ID model to try to verify it. So that is what the AI capability we provide is. It's very narrowly around the computer vision. You try voice, nothing will happen. So it's very computer vision based AI.
Hey. Okay, on to our next then.
Yes.
Yeah. Maybe I'll get. Yeah. Go ahead.
One more lucky draw.
Yeah.
Hopefully I don't get my mom. Wow. CEO of HTX.
CEO.
Okay.
I think it's a very relevant question actually. So what is, in your opinion, the best form of access control and why?
Okay, so to the CE, I'll try to provide a big picture answer. I think the best form of access controls are where you can maintain your security and the governance and the safety of your employees. So that is never compromised. To do that, the traditional sense, people and things are identified based on what you know and what you own. So it can be a password plus a token device that you carry. So this is a traditional way. But if your security is the most important factor as a CE, and you still want to provide access it will be something that is secure, preferably with the second factor authentication. But at the same time, you want this to be a very seamless experience and very frictionless thing, so that the person that you are trying to verify, of course, passport is a given, is what you know, but what you own, what you carry, has to be something that's already on your body. So what do you have on your body right now that could act as a second factor authentication device? Is it your glasses, your shoe? It has to be your phone, right? So that would be probably the most seamless access control that is also very secure.
Wow.
I would think the CE would feel very safe now. And one more, last one.
Okay. A police officer.
Oh, wow.
Wow. So
all around the whole team.
Yes, all around, yeah. So the last question is actually more of a personal one as well, but geared towards explaining it, I guess, to someone like a police officer, is what are some of maybe the best applications, software applications that you know or use, and why? Why do you think they're so good for you?
It doesn't have to be specific to what we are doing in our industry, right? It's because we are just talking about general technology. I think to a police officer, one of the technology that they are starting to use globally is ability to identify people through a database in real time based on the technology that's augmented on their body. So it can be something like a body camera, not just recording, but it will tell them in real time who the person they are looking at is. So because this actually allows a police officer to do things very efficiently. And of course, there's always a concern about privacy for the police officer to know who you are just from the augmented data. That means that there's a database of people's faces that's running in real time, probably through 5G, and telling the police officer, you're basically pulling up a person records in real time. But this could save a lot of man hours, and it could even save lives. So I was overseas, and I got a stop for a random check at the roadside. The police officers stopped me at the roadside overseas and asked me for ID and verification. So all this process could be automated. So imagine you have this system. So from the body cam, you straight away know it could be something like an augmented camera through a smart glasses that tells you who exactly is this person, what's the date of entry, what's the purpose, what the record, is there any historical criminal records to worry about. So this will allow the police officers to take the right action, because they know preemptively who they're talking to. Because from just one glance from the face, it's very hard for you to conclude, right? Again, we don't carry a digital or physical identity on our forehead. So you need to have a way to infer this quickly and smartly.
Correct. Yeah, I think that's definitely true, especially with, like, when you see a car driving, say, suspiciously, it's good to know, is this, someone who might have a record, right? Like, how should you proceed with caution, etc. I think it's very important.
Yeah, I think internationally this has been a trend, but at the same time there's a pushback from a privacy concern point of view. If you have too many CCTV, that means that there are too many watching eyes and potentially a lot of database processing all this data in real time. So I guess it's a compromise, or rather balance of security and privacy.
I think the trust portion is really important. Like, with holding this much data, you become a custodian of something that's quite important. And I think whoever is in charge of this data has that responsibility to be careful with it, make sure it's well, securely saved, processed, and
not abused.
And not abused, exactly. All right. So I think that's the three questions that we have.
That's right.
And we would like to thank Maxim for joining us today. We had quite a fun chat. We talked about quite a few different parts of both travel, access, technology, as well as just generally, how we go about life, kind of, with different goals and different aspirations. It's really exciting to see your journey, and we at HTX really wish you all the best.
Thank you.
With GTRIIP, yeah, we hope to see it in more places, all over Singapore and abroad, as we, as travel lanes start opening up.
Yeah.
That brings us to the conclusion of today's episode of TechXchange. Thank you, Maxim.
Thank you.
Again.
All right. See you guys.
We hope you had a great time listening to Maxim. We had a great time talking to him today. Like, share, and subscribe to our socials over here. And we hope you enjoyed it here today. And we'll see you next time.